Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Living on the Verge podcast, where we talk all things pop culture, reality TV, and food and travel. My name is Virginia, and I thank you for joining me for another episode of the Living on the Verge podcast. If you like what you hear, please make sure to follow and subscribe, rate and review, and especially tell a friend. Now, let's get started. Today, I'm just going to jump right on in because, in case you haven't noticed, I'm running a little behind on my podcast posting this week because I'm a little under the weather. So, we're going to get through this, but I'm going to jump right on in. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills last week was a little bit better than the week before, but the ratings would not show that. The ratings are down under 800,000, and that is close to the series low that they had earlier in the season. I don't know what's going on in Beverly Hills, but I won't spend a ton of time talking about it. Let me bring you up to speed. Last we saw, the girls were getting settled in St. Lucia. So this week opens with them getting ready for dinner. They're all wearing white dresses to dinner, and Kyle and Garcelle show up wearing the same dress. And it's pretty funny because it's true. Garcelle has always kind of talked mad crap about Kyle's fashion choices. And here she shows up wearing the same dress. So she says, I was known to have called Kyle's fashion hideous. I am now eating my words because we're twinning tonight. She's come a long way. And she takes a drag on the fake cigarette. I thought that was funny. I guess she's eating her words. I don't know how I felt about the dress, but two people liked it. And apparently three because the dress that Kyle was wearing she says belonged to Alexia, and Alexia wore it to the white party at the season finale of the previous season, and they flash back to that. So I guess it's a cool dress to wear to a white party. You guys, it's the same thing. They're at dinner, there's going to be a fight. This one didn't get as bad as they usually do, but it started because Sutton tried to apologize to Dorit, and Dorit basically glossed over her apology and then was going to go back in on her. But Bo stepped in and said, Hey, Dorit, she's trying to apologize to you. Like, give it a minute. So Dorit backed off for just a little bit. And then it took Kathy, chiming in and breaking the tension for them to move on. Then they ended up talking about how Bose had seen Mauricio out at a restaurant with a woman and actually two women, but she could tell that they were on like a double date. And one woman belonged with Mauricio and the other woman was with the other gentleman. And, she went on to give Kyle a full report. In my opinion, that is being a girl's girl. You pick up the phone, you do it right then and there, and you ask if they need any assistance scratching out the eyes or keying the car or whatever it is that you need to do to prove that you are on this girl's side. Okay, maybe I'm taking it a little bit too far, but you know what I mean. Ladies, have your ladies back. Have your girls back. Be a girl's girl. Garcelle decides that this is a perfect opening to mention what's on her mind. And she says, I just don't understand why everyone has to tiptoe around the Morgan thing. And the entire vibe of the table changes. Is it a big deal? I don't know. Kyle states she's an open book, except when other people ask her not to be. And you know what? I'm not sure how I feel. I thought about this and I was pretty pissed at Kyle. And I thought, you know what? We deserve answers. We deserve to know what's really going on. But then I thought about it as a podcaster and I realized that I can be an open book too, but what if my openness divulges somebody else's private secrets? And don't I owe it to them? I don't know. Now I'm conflicted. Back at the room, Garcelle is visibly upset when Sutton is recapping the events of the evening and the apology. And the one thing that Sutton chooses to focus on is how Kyle stood up for her. When I tell you that girl was not happy, her entire demeanor changed. Garcelle is obviously very hurt. But, you know, did anyone else feel a little bit sorry for Sutton in the confessional when she says, See, I knew she liked me. Now everybody else knows it too. Garcelle realizes she isn't going to get through to Sutton and is also being a little passive aggressive. She could have just told her, you know, you're hurting my feelings. But instead, she does the one thing that Sutton would hate even more than that. She just ends the conversation and goes to bed. Meanwhile, in the other room, Bose is calling out Dorit. Now, let me tell you guys something. That is a friend, someone who is willing to tell you when you are wrong. It made me love Bose even that much more. Bose says, I've realized Dorit has challenges accepting and giving apologies. And I am realizing that Bose has a good sense of judgment when it comes to character. So the next morning, Sutton is anxious to patch things up with Garcelle, and they go out to have breakfast on the balcony, but it's Garcelle who instead apologizes for storming off and admits now that she just wanted backup. And I find that very refreshing. I expected the conversation to go completely differently, but she was candid and she was vulnerable, and she said, you know, you hurt my feelings. That's what real friends need to do. Sometimes we spend so much time bullshitting each other and telling each other all the other things except for what is really going on and what is really bothering us. And it could be so easy to fix. The girls had all discussed taking thirst trap photos in the morning before heading out on the catamaran. So, what are your thoughts on women in their 50s, 40s, 60s taking thirst trap photos? All in fun or over the edge? I'm going to let you decide. I have no opinion that will be reported here. LOL. Let's move on, you guys. The food spread looked beautiful on the catamaran, but it made me laugh how Kathy was just bossing Jennifer around, asking her for the salad dressing and a napkin. Uh, that woman must have people waiting on her 24/7 because the minute that she is away, she treats everybody like the wait staff. And I'm not saying that in like a mean way. She's sort of oblivious. She just is kind of entitled. And I don't hate it because it's Kathy Hilton. Dorit and Kyle are chatting in the front of the catamaran, and Kyle basically freezes when Dorit asks how things are going with the sisters, and she brings up Kim. It's pretty obvious that Kyle does not want to have that conversation, and I think it ends with her just saying, you know, like we don't have a great relationship right now. We're not really speaking. We know in real time that both Kathy and Kyle are not speaking to Kim, and we don't know what the status is of her sobriety at this point. What we do know is that even though Sutton said she was not going to apologize again, she made the mistake of bringing it up again on the catamaran, mainly just to clarify to everybody there that she was indeed sincere. Erica sees it as an opportunity to bring up her strife. She accuses her of posing as a friend and working as an enemy. Sutton convolutes the statement and uses it as her excuse to blow her fuse. What do y'all fucking want from me? Seriously. And they're off. Dorit starts asking her questions. They all start talking over one another. And then Sutton says, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to speak in an English accent? Sutton gets pissed off, runs off. Garcelle and Kyle tell everyone else to just give her a moment. And the episode ends with Sutton looking out of the catamaran window, holding back tears as she screams through gritted teeth, I fucking hate these bitches. And we get the to be continued. So, from what I understand, next week is the final episode, the season finale. Thank God. And then we'll have the reunion. It's all over the internet that Garcelle and Bose go head to head at the reunion. So that'll be interesting to see. But other than that, you guys, I'm very sad to report that I'm okay with The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills being over for the time being. I don't know what it is, but I just didn't enjoy this season. If you guys disagree, chime in. Let me know in the notes what I'm missing. So, I want to talk about a really fun show. I am really, really enjoying watching this show, Denise Richards and Her Wild Things. Are you guys watching this? So, there will be spoilers on this one. If you are, watching and you haven't watched episodes 3, 4, and 5, skip ahead and move on to the next subject. Real quick, I'm not going to spend a ton of time because I just want to keep the charm of this show the way it is. The fun in watching this show is the dynamic between Denise and the girls, Denise and her husband, the girls amongst themselves, and then, of course, the peripheral people who come in and out. So in episode 3, we got to see Erica Jane, and they had a funeral for Godzilla, who was a big lizard that had lived for 20 some odd years, I believe it was, and belonged to Brooke. Brooke is one of Charlie Sheen's ex-wives, who has been friends with Denise. And apparently she went to rehab and dropped Godzilla off at the front door of Denise's place. And so, of course, Denise inherited him, sorry, and went on to dedicate an entire room. And sadly, Godzilla passed away. So Denise thought it would be a good bonding experience for Sammy and Lola to plan a memorial because Brooke had requested a memorial for Godzilla. This memorial had more flowers than I expect to have at my memorial, and it was really, really done well. I mean, the girls did a good job. They had the photo, they had the sign-in sheet. It was very cute. That's about all you could really say about a funeral for a lizard. So I'm going to move on. Denise is really excited about cooking, but as we get into more of the episodes, we see she may not be as good of a cook as she thinks she is. But you got to give her an A for effort. I just love her spirit. So she goes on to pose for what she is going to call her Only Pans show pitch. And that's going to be her food cooking show. Get it? It's a spin on OnlyFans, only it's only pans. So she has Aaron, her husband, take pictures of her with nothing but 2 pans over her boobs and 1 over her crotch. And that is what she's going to use to pitch this show. The girl is zany and goofy, but I can't help how endearing she is. I just love her. Am I the only one? Denise films a cooking show with Eloise and Sammy, but she has no recipe. And she's trying to make pasta. Don't go to Denise Richards' house for dinner. At least no time in the near future and not for pasta. You could take your animals there, but don't go eat there. Did you guys see the pasta? They couldn't even finish it. It was pretty funny. In other news, Sammy has always wanted a nose job, so Denise takes her for the consultation and is kind of sad when Sammy tells her, I don't want you here on the day of the surgery. My friend's going to bring me. So a little while later, Lola and Denise are driving and she spills the tea, accidentally telling Lola about Sammy's nose job when it was a big secret and Sammy wanted no one, especially Lola, to know. So I don't know. Denise says that she could keep a secret, but you couldn't prove it by what I saw. Anyway, later on, they go to a scene where they show Aaron and Denise in bed. And I just thought, these two have a really good relationship. Unless this is all for the cameras, and it didn't look like it was, it looked pretty organic. One of them is sitting there with a face gym, and the other one has a head helmet on. Aaron for his hair, and her because she says, why not? There are muscles in your face, so you need a face gym. It was a really cute scene. Anyway, next we see Denise driving with Lola and Eloise, and they're going to see Sammy after she's had her surgery. And Denise is upset because she calls Sammy and tells her that they're on their way, and Sammy requests that Lola not come to her condo. How would you deal with that as a mom? If you were taking your daughter to go see her sister and she said she didn't want her there, would you drop her off at a coffee shop and go there anyway? Would you tell your daughter that if she doesn't welcome her sister, then you're not going, and neither is her other sister, or would you stay out of it altogether? That's a hard one, but I don't know that I could stand by and watch one sister be so cruel to another, and as a mom, not step in and do anything. By the same token, if you get involved, then you're the bad guy, they make up later, and now they're both mad at you. It's a tough one. In this episode, we get a visit from Kathy Hilton. Kathy and Denise meet at a coffee shop, and they're having a conversation about the girls, and Kathy opens up to Denise about her problems with Paris Hilton. When, Paris was younger, she used to run away from all the schools, and apparently, she was a little spitfire. So she's trying to give Denise some hope and let her know that, hopefully they'll grow out of it and become beautiful ladies because she says, her Paris is just a lovely young lady now, and she couldn't be happier with how she turned out. So it was nice to see Kathy. And then the episode ends when Brooke Williamson, a chef, shows up to help Denise cook. And she has a successful dish that she cooks, and they record it. So it renews Denise's faith and confidence that she could, in fact, maybe one day realize her dream of having this cooking show. I think this is a really, really cute show. And I think that it has a lot to give, especially with all of the guest stars and just the demeanor of Denise carries the show very well. Let me know what you guys think. Let's move right on along to Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 2. The ratings were 672,000, the lowest in the show's history. That kind of bums me out. I thought it was on the upswing. I wonder if it's just not caught on, or if, in general, the Housewives audience is just exhausted and gone away. They still have me. Porsha Williams is on fire, you guys. The girl is hot. She comes on. Do you remember when we left the last episode? It was a to be continued, basically, a cliffhanger, when Shamia asked Porsha straight out, Drew straight out, if she is dating baby daddy hot dog Dennis. And when it opens, Drew is talking so fast, she's tripping all over her words. And she basically tells her that she was under the impression that Dennis had spoken to Porsha about the fact that they were working on their music together, and yada, yada, yada. All of that to say she does not answer the darn question. So Porsha lets her finish, and then she ramps it up, and she says, "You a low down, dirty individual." Then she takes a deep breath and says, "Can I break the fourth wall?" That was epic. Epic to just come right back after such a long hiatus and be like, hey, I know what's going on here and I know what I'm about to do. Producers, yay or nay. You hear the voice of the producers from afar saying yes, and straight out the gate, the girl is activated. She tells Drew that she's pissed off because Drew is trying to film with Dennis, and that is something that she just does not want to happen. Beyond that, she is pissed off because she heard that Drew had called her producer and tried to set up a photo shoot for Porsha's hair company. Porsha calls her an awful fucking slimy ass bitch. Tell her how you really feel, Porsha. So after that exchange, Porsha goes on to tell the girls that at one point, they want to know what happened with Simon. So she says, well, at one point we were on a tarmac surrounded by police. And when I asked him what had happened, what was going on, he said that his reason was because he was in a car that he didn't know was stolen. And because he was here on a visa, he could have nothing on his record. And that's why they were looking into him. So it turns out to be all bullshit. We now know that. And we know he's under ICE arrest at the moment. God knows what else is going on. And who knows what more we'll learn throughout, the course of the season. But whew, sounds like she averted a huge crisis, dodged a major bullet with that guy. Then there's Kelly. Callie's trying to open another Nana's, and they take us, the viewers, to see the place is kind of a mess and still has a lot of work, but they're swearing it's going to be done, in time for their scheduled opening. And then in her backstory, she mentions that her ex-husband had closed down her original location in Conyers, Georgia, but doesn't say much more about it. However, it does seem that it was a bitter divorce. Then later on, she goes on to say that her husband took over a half a million out of the company while she was on a birthday trip in Tulum, so she had to file a lawsuit. And I'm sorry to digress, but what in the hell is going on with that poor dog? If you guys are fans of multicolored rainbow dogs, pink dogs with purple ears and blue ribbons or whatever, then you may want to skip ahead because I'm about to lose my ever-loving mind. It it just seems wrong. It seems wrong. Who the hell needs to have a dog that looks like, Hello Pony? What is happening? Ladies, sometimes you just do the most. It's just too much. Leave the little dogs alone and let them be whatever color God intended them to be. Give them a bath, keep their nails trimmed, teach them to be good dogs that don't poop all over the place, and let them be the animals that God intended them to be. Okay, my rant's over. Kelly opens up and talks about her marriage and her divorce, and she says that at one point it got so toxic and turbulent that it got physical. And, that's really sad. Nobody ever wants to hear that. So in Shamia's storyline, we meet Shadina, who, through Dr. Jackie of Married to Medicine, was a surrogate for Candy Burris, but also for Shamia. And sadly, Shadina got stage 3 breast cancer when she was 32 weeks pregnant with Shiloh, which is the baby that Shamia has now, and has the developmental problems that they have determined were not related to Shadina's cancer. But it's really sad because she can't be a surrogate anymore, and Shamia was hoping to have more children. So she goes in to talk to her about what the plans are going to be, and then she divulges that she had had an ectopic pregnancy. And it's sad. Infertility is something that is much more common than we discuss or than we see. And so it's a storyline that, is probably going to touch a lot of people as it progresses. We'll see how that develops. So Drew and Angela are at the gym, and Drew has a breakdown because Ralph reportedly wants alimony, child support, and percentages of her businesses. It looks like she just reaches a breaking point and she just has a moment of vulnerability and she breaks down. Angela's there to try to comfort her, and we learned that Angela has 4 kids and that she originally had met Charles at a party and then they didn't speak for 10 years until they ended up being neighbors. She's a house flipper and apparently he's the chef because the scene they show him cooking. And is it me or is he a little much? I mean, they seem like a cute family, but he seems like, listen, I ain't gonna fuck with those ladies. Like, he does not seem like he wants to be filming, and he does not seem like he wants to hear any of the BS either. Kenya and Portia meet for lunch, and they start dishing about what happened at the party. And Kenya says, I didn't know Dennis was a producer. And Portia sort of shades Dennis, saying, well, he did write a children's album for our daughter. And we get to see Brittany again, and she is in the kitchen with her husband, Mike. And they just seem like polar opposites to me. I don't know what I'm picking up. I haven't been able to put my finger on it yet, but either this guy doesn't want to film or he really is uncomfortable or they're having some sort of issues. Allegedly, she's getting pregnant, and it seems like, I don't know, they kind of, at one point, I kind of thought maybe he wants the family and she doesn't, because she was saying, we're going to have the baby in this house and so on and so forth. And I don't know. There's something more that we're going to learn about those two. Let's stay tuned for that. All of that to say, I thought this was a pretty good episode. I can see that things are going to start heating up. The storylines look juicy. The outfits are, fabulous and outrageous as ever. And I think this is going to be one to watch, you guys. So watch along with me. We're moving on to White Lotus Season 3, Episode 5, The Full Moon Party. Heesh, this one was a lot. So let's just see if we can get through it. The episode opens with Guy Talk frantically searching for the gun that's missing. And he goes back and looks through the tape and he sees Timothy, leave with it in his hand and kind of in his pocket. So meanwhile, back at the dinner table, Piper proudly announces that there's no thesis and that instead it's her big plan to move to Taiwan. And her mother is bewildered. Uh, Chloe and Chelsea talk about how Chloe is into Lachlan, while Dickwad says he'll target the other one because she is so annoying. The three girls are partying with the three guys, one being Valentine, and they start dancing. Fabian tells Belinda an American is interested in her, and it piques her interest. Meanwhile, Jacqueline, Kate, and Lori are having the time of their lives dancing with the guys and invite them to come back to the villa. Belinda tells Fabian that the guy asking about her is named Greg and not Gary, and that they are looking for him to question him about his wife's death. Fabian sort of blows her off. Do you think he's in on it? Or, I don't know, I'm so confused with this show right now. So, hearing the news of Piper's imminent move to Taiwan, Timothy storms off, and Victoria thinks that it's because of the news, but he basically is just losing his shit about what's going on. So Talk follows him and confronts him about the gun, and Timothy just kind of denies knowing anything and scurries off. Now we go to Bangkok, where Rick meets a friend. I don't think they used his name. If they did, I didn't catch it. So this friend of Rick's is explaining to him that he's sober now because he had gone off the deep end. He was drinking and drugging and womanizing, and he started to get to a point where he was with a lady boy, and then he realized he wanted to be a lady boy. And then he goes into detailing the kink that he got into with Rick, who appears to be in utter and complete shock. And then he says, and then I found Buddhism. I don't know, you guys, this guy's a little off, a little out there, but we'll see what part he plays in the story. Later on, Rick tells him that he needs him to meet him tomorrow. And the guy says, I owe you, I'll be there. So we'll see what happens. So Talk is sent home without finding the gun, and Piper and Victoria continue to argue that Buddhism is not a cult, and Victoria thinks it is, and she finally just storms off saying, I'm missing my lorazepam, and now I'm going to need to drink myself to sleep. So that's how that one ends. Back at the full moon party, Chloe hands Lachlan a pill, and he takes it without even batting an eye. And Chelsea is on the phone trying to call Rick. He doesn't answer. She gets off the phone. She's pissed off that he doesn't answer the phone. So she and Saxon take the last two pills. Jacqueline and Lori are turning up. They're going balls out, having the time of their lives, and decide to invite the boys back to the villa. Kate looks a little put off, but she goes along with it. And then back at the villa, things really start turning up. Clothes start coming off, people are jumping in the pool, and the music, everybody's vibing, and Kate's standing off on the sidelines, very uncomfortable until she finally calls an end to the night and asks the guys to leave. Well, they all go their separate ways, and later on, you see Jacqueline sneaking back to the door, and who but who does she let in? Valentine. Belinda's all freaked out about Greg Gary and asks Pornchai to please stay with her until her son gets there the following night. So he agrees to, and he comes into the room in his robe ready to get into bed, and she says, you can sleep in that bed or you can sleep in this bed. just in case you were wondering, this is consent. I don't know if they do that here in your country. It's new in my country. You get it, Belinda girl. I wonder what was in that bag that Rick's friend handed to him when he told him he hopes he doesn't have to use it. Hmm. Anyway, back at the boat, Chloe tells Chelsea that she thinks Greg is capable of killing her. That was a little random tidbit. Maybe it'll come in handy a little later. But then later on, the pill's in full effect, and it looks, there's no voices. So we have to, I guess, imply for ourselves what is going on, or infer for ourselves what is going on. And Chelsea and Chloe kiss. It looks like it might have been a dare. And then Lachlan and Saxon kiss. I don't know. This is getting a little bit weird, you guys. They flash back to the resort where Timothy is holding a gun to his head, and Victoria ends up walking in and seeing him. Tim says he can't handle the pressure anymore, and Victoria says there's no reason for him to be stressed because he's already succeeded in every way. He chuckles and goes back to bed. The show ends with Timothy praying for God to tell him what to do. So that's it, you guys. We'll see how this one continues along. I thought it was going to bust loose a lot more this week. It has not yet. So are you going to stick in there? Are you going to keep watching? Are you going to call this one done? Let me know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts too, because I'm a little bewildered. It's a little slower than seasons 1 and 2, and I'm kind of disappointed. I really had high hopes. I love this show, and so far it's not giving me what seasons 1 and 2 have given, but we'll see. I'll keep watching and I'll let you know. And real quick in Bravo news, Brandi Glanville is selling her clothes to help pay for her medical bills. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about this woman. And listen, karma's a bitch, and she has not been a good person in many, many years. But I don't know that I would wish this on anyone. Have you guys seen the pictures of her face on Instagram? It literally looks like it's melting away. So Dr. Terry DeBro is supposedly going to help her. And we haven't heard much more on that, but we do know that we can buy any or all of the outfits that she wore when she was a Beverly Hills housewife because she is auctioning them off for between $500 and $1,000 a piece. Go get yours. And Lala Kent makes the news this week because she backed Jax up and sent well wishes and hopes that he will do well in recovery, and received a ton of backlash, not just from social media, but also from Brittany, who is very upset with her. Apparently, they've made up now and everything is fine, but Lala wanted to point out that she would not be serving herself and her program if she told Jack to go pound sand, because it is part of her program to welcome and encourage growth and success in anyone who is trying for a sober lifestyle. So I'm on board with that. I agree with Lala. I think that in order for her program to remain strong, she needs to stay positive for anybody else entering. And if you guys want to judge her for that, well, then that's on you. To be fair, there's not a lot that Lala could do to piss me off. Even though she's had some missteps, she's one of my favorites. And finally, did Tamra Judge of the Real Housewives of Orange County really quit? Well, the rumors are no, she didn't. In fact, she's been spotted filming earlier this week, and so we think that the respite was over. She doesn't say much about it on her podcast, but speaking of the podcast, Teddy's back. It looks like she's doing once a week shows, and she's doing quite a shorter episode than they normally do, but it's really nice to have her back. And so I just continue to send her well wishes. Last week, I told you guys that I was going to review my new Workin, which is my Walmart Birkin. Did you guys know that Walmart came out with a leather version of a Birkin? It's a knockoff, around $70, $80, and I've ordered quite a few of them. I'm going to reserve my review until I get all of them in because I also want to review the customer service process. And right now, I've only received one of the three that I've ordered. So I'm going to withhold my review until the process is complete so I can let you know how everything worked out. But never fear, I do have a makeup tip for you. The makeup tip of the week is mascara. Did you guys notice during Beverly Hills Housewives, Kyle was using a mascara that she swears by? Now, I had seen this story last year and I bought it. And I've thrown away all my other mascaras. I had my daughter-in-law told me to buy one. It was about $30. It dried out pretty quickly. And even though it was good, it wasn't what I was looking for because it didn't last very long. So I got a deal for you. Kyle Richards mascara is L'Oreal's Voluminous Moisturizing Mascara Noir Balm. It comes in a black tube and you can get it for $8 on Amazon. Try it. Let me know what you guys think. So I have a big weekend this weekend and I'll have a lot of exciting things to share with you next week. Make sure you stay tuned. Thanks for joining me.